Hi students of Standard 10 ICSE. Hope you all are studying hard with all your subjects, and let's continue with our story, The Elevator, from where we left off in the last module. Okay, we left Martin. He ran off to school, I remember, and he thought about her the whole day. We begin with that. He thought about her all day. Did she live in the building? He had never seen her before, and the building was not very big. Maybe she was visiting somebody, but at 7:30 in the morning was too early for visiting. So now what do we learn from this? We learn that the first time the author has mentioned the time to us, okay? And he has given us the time that it was 7:30 in the morning because Martin was going to school. So he met her in the elevator and he ran off because he got very scared, okay? So Martin felt nervous when he got back to the building after school. But why should he be afraid of an old lady? He felt ashamed of himself. He pressed the button and stepped into the elevator, hoping that it would not stop. But it stopped on the third floor. So this time the elevator stopped on the third floor. Martin watched the door slide open, revealing a green coat, a piggish face, and blue eyes which were already staring at him as if she knew he would be there. So now Martin was, as it is, he was already scared, and he got even more scared because the elevator opened on the third floor and he found that lady standing over there again. Okay. It wasn't possible. It was like a nightmare. What's a nightmare, children? A frightening dream with a bitter experience. Okay, so it wasn't possible. It was like a nightmare. But there she was, going up, said Martin, his voice little more than a squeak. What do you mean by squeak? A short, high-pitched voice. Okay, she nodded and stepped on. The door slammed. You'll notice everywhere the author keeps saying the door slammed and it clanked, and he keeps using this auditory imagery. So for us to remember that the lift was rickety. He watched her pudgy hand move towards the buttons. She pressed not the 14th, but the 18th top floor. So the 18th floor was a top floor in that building, and she pressed that. The elevator trembled and began to go up. The fat lady watched him. This morning she got on at the 14th floor. So why did she get on at the 3rd floor today to go up to 18? Now he is wondering, that my God, what is she doing? Today she got up on the 14th floor today morning, and now she wants to go. She got in on the 3rd floor. She's going to the 18th floor. What exactly is she doing? So we are sort of, the author has again used foreshadowing over here, where it's again very sinister, and we don't know where exactly this lady is going to, or where she is living, whether she is living in the building or no. And first of all, if she is living in the building, on which floor is she living? The elevator seemed to be moving more slowly than usual. Why more slowly than usual? Because Martin was scared. So it felt like ages. Okay. Martin wanted to press 7 so that he could get out and walk up the stairs. But he couldn't reach the buttons without touching her, and he didn't want to do that. So he did not even want to touch the woman. So he refused to even press the elevator ka button. When the elevator stopped on his floor, she hardly moved out of his way. Now what do you mean? He had to squeeze past her, rubbing against her horrible scratchy coat. So now you can imagine she must have been such a fat lady, and her big coat was all around her. And poor Martin, when the 17th floor came, he wanted to go out, but so she didn't even move to give him place to go. So he had to squeeze himself, and slowly he went out. You can see, it's visual imagery which the author has used. Okay, it's so beautiful. The entire story has a lot of visual imagery, auditory imagery, then a lot of foreshadowing. All that the author has used beautifully. When the elevator stopped he had her horrible scratchy coat. He was afraid the door would close before he could get out. She turned and watched him as the door slammed shut. Now she knows I live on 17. So now he's even more scared, because he's saying that, oh God, now she has come to know that I am living on the 17th floor. He thought. Have you ever noticed a strange lady in the elevator? He asked his father that evening. Can't say I have, he replied, not looking away from the television. Martin knew he was probably making a mistake, but he had to tell somebody about the woman. She was in the elevator with me twice today. She just kept staring at me. She never stopped looking at me for a minute. So now, this statement which the author has made over here, Martin knew he was probably making a mistake. What does that refer to? It refers to the point that somewhere in his heart of hearts, Martin was aware that his father was never going to side with him. He had that feeling in his heart. So he knew that he was making a mistake by probably he was making a mistake by trying to tell his father about the woman. But then he was so desperate, he didn't know whom else to talk to. So he had to talk to his father. Okay. What are you so worried about now? His father said, turning impatiently away from the television. What am I going to do with you, Martin? Honestly, now you are afraid of some poor old lady? I am not afraid. You are afraid, said his father. When are you going to grow up and act like a man? Are you going to be timid all your life? Now, his father is exasperated, literally. Okay, look at the sentences he's saying. When are you going to grow up and act like a man? As if he's telling Martin that you're such a coward. Martin didn't want to cry in front of his father. So see the self-pride of the protagonist. He does not want to cry in front of his father even though it has hurt him very badly. So he goes to his room. His father probably knew he was crying anyway. He slept very little. Who slept little? Martin. In the morning, when the elevator door opened, the fat lady was waiting for him. Martin stood there unable to move, like he was just shocked. Then he backed away. So instead of entering into the elevator, he just moved back. He said, my God, she's here again. Okay. Martin started running down the stairs. The stairs were dark and he fell. So the next thing we know is that he ran down the steps and he fell, and then we know that his father was silent on the way to the hospital. Means he was hurt so badly that his father had to take him to the hospital. So his father was silent on the way to the hospital, disappointed and angry with him for being a coward and a fool. Martin had broken his leg and needed to walk on crutches. He could not use the stairs now. Was that why the fat lady had smiled? Did she know what would happen? So now this thought has come to his mind that fat woman who was with me in the lift, she probably knew that I'm going to fall and I'm going to have to walk on crutches, and that is why she was smiling. Martin has just assumed. At least his father was with him in the elevator on the way back to the hospital, from the hospital. There was no room for the fat lady to get in. And if she did, his father would see her and maybe he would understand. So now he's very happy. When they're coming back from the hospital, he knows that his father is with him, and the lift is very small. Remember, we were told in the beginning the lift is very small. So if the lift is very small, there was no question of the fat lady being able to enter. And if she tried to enter, this was the time when Martin's father was with him. So if she entered, at least Martin's father would see the old woman and then would believe what Martin had been saying about her. Okay, so he was very happy. There was some solace in his with himself. Okay. There was no room for the fat lady to get in, and if she did, his father would see her and maybe he would understand. When he got home, he could stay in the apartment for a few days. The doctor said that he had to rest as much as possible. So Martin was very happy. He said, if she gets into the lift, my father is going to see her, and apart from that, once I reach my apartment, I'm going to stay there for a few days because the doctor has told me to rest. Okay. The doctor said that he had to rest as much as possible. Martin felt quite safe from the fat lady. Oh, I almost forgot. His father reached out and pressed number 9. So what happened while the lift was going up and Martin was thinking all these things, that his father is going to be with him and he's very happy. He will be, if the old lady comes, he'll again see her and all. Suddenly, his father reached out and pressed the number 9 button in the elevator. He pressed number 9. And he said, oh, I almost forgot. His father reached out and pressed number 9. What are you doing? Asked Martin, trying not to sound afraid. So Martin was trying to show that he was not afraid. But he asked his father, "What are you doing?" "I promised to visit Mrs. Ullman," said his father. So his father said, "Oh no, I just forgot. I had promised Mrs. Ullman that I would come and meet her, visit her," looking at his watch as he stepped out of the elevator. "Let me go with you. I want to visit her too," Martin pleaded, struggling to move on his crutches. Now, children, you must remember that Martin was walking on crutches. Okay, so it was not very easy for him to walk. By that time, his father had pressed number 9 and the lift door had opened, and the father and son had had this little bit of a conversation. You can visualize the entire thing, in the story. The father and son had had this little bit of conversation together, and Martin said, "Oh, let me also come, even I want to come." And he was hobbling, he was trying to get out. By that time the door was already closing, and it was as if through a very small place which was left in the closing door before it slammed shut, his father said, "Afraid to be in the elevator alone?" asked his father. "Grow up, Martin." And the door slammed shut. Understood? You can visualize the whole thing. And then what happened? Martin hobbled to the buttons. The door shut. So he felt, okay, I'll press number 9 quickly and the door will open. So he pressed number 9, but by that time it was too late and the elevator had started moving. Okay, he hobbled to the buttons and pressed 9, but it didn't do any good. The elevator stopped. Where? At 10. The next floor, where the fat lady was waiting for him. She moved in quickly, and he was too slow to get past her in time to get out. The door closed and the elevator began to move. "Hello, Martin," she said, and laughed and pushed the stop button. So now she's greeting Martin and she's saying, "Hello, Martin," and she pushed the stop button. So the elevator stopped. So we have the story ending with a cliffhanger. Means it is left midway, leaving the conclusion to be drawn by the readers according to their imagination. Whatever you want to conclude, you can conclude. Okay. So with that, I have finished explaining the figures of speech used and the style of writing and everything in this story. And I hope that you have understood the story in great detail and you are able to answer all the questions. Now, before I would actually close this module, I would definitely like to give you a few notes. I have made a few points for you which I have taught you, of course, but I want you all to also take a copy of this. Okay, this is the elevator, the title justification. Let's read it. The story explores Martin's fear and experiences that come with it. The entire story revolves around the elevator in the protagonist's building, which he dreads due to his fear of elevators. He was afraid. Now, children, when you're writing about title justification, before I read this entire thing to you, I want to tell you all one thing. What exactly do you mean by title justification? It means that whether it's a poem or whether it's a story, a particular title has been given. Now, that title has to be justified. Means, has the author or the poet given a proper title to his literary piece? Now, how would you justify the title? You can justify the title by proving or by showing incidents or examples from the story or from the poem to show that the entire action revolves around that particular event or that particular thing. In this case, we are talking about the elevator. So if you are able to prove with examples from your textbook that the story revolves around the elevator, then you have justified the title. So you can give any examples that you want. I have given one or two examples over here, but whichever examples you remember or whichever examples you are able to quote, always remember, the more you quote, the more marks you will get. Okay, so that is called title justification. Okay. So where was I? Okay. He was afraid that either they would fall or he would be trapped in them. So he was afraid of the elevator. So the first thing we are talking about is the elevator, that the protagonist was scared of the elevators and he was always afraid that he would get trapped in the elevator or that the elevator would fall. This fear turned into a phobia. Phobia is extreme fear, aggravated fear. It turned into a phobia when he moved with his father to an apartment on the 17th floor of a building which had an old elevator. So the elevator in the new house where they had gone was, the building was old and the elevator was also old. His fear was so aggravated that he took the stairs and reached his house gasping for breath. On being rebuked by his father, Martin decided to get used to the elevator. His rising fear gave rise to a living nightmare in the form of a fat old lady who kept appearing to enter the elevator from different floors. She would appear from all different floors, one day from third, one day from first, and she would get down one day on 14th, one day on 18th, different things. So that's very sinister, isn't it? So we have that style that he has used, foreshadowing, like what I've been explaining to you. So enter the elevator from different floors. He breaks his leg while using the dark stairs, and when on his return journey from the hospital, he is left alone in the elevator by his father. His fear emerged in the form of the lady with whom he was trapped into the elevator while she pushed the stop button. Thus, the title, The Elevator, is justified. So, the story actually ends. The climax of the story is ending in the elevator itself. Therefore, the title Elevator is justified. I hope you understood how to write title justification. Now, the theme of this story. Got it? Overcoming Fear. The Elevator, William Sleater, 1945 to 2011. The theme is overcoming your fear. The main theme of the story, The Elevator, is about overcoming fears by facing them and not avoiding them. So when you are scared of something, it's always good to turn around and face it instead of trying to avoid your fear. Okay? Martin, the protagonist, was always afraid of elevators. But to avoid his father's annoyance, just so that his father would not be annoyed with him, Martin tries hard to overcome this fear. However, his fear kept on increasing to such an extent that it took the form of the old fat woman who kept appearing to enter the elevator from different floors. He got trapped into the elevator with his inner fear. So he was trapped into the elevator with his fear, his heart, inner fear, which he had in his heart. That is the lady who he felt was always laughing at him. That means mocking at him. He could have felt angry enough to face his fear and get rid of not only his fear of the fat lady but also of elevators. Now, why have I marked this with a red line in the margin? Because this could be one of the conclusions that you can draw. It's not compulsory for you to draw this conclusion, but it can be a positive conclusion that we can draw, that he got so angry and he overcame his fear. Okay, this is one conclusion. You can have lots of other conclusions. Fear in our mind is, but because I'm talking about the theme of overcoming fear, I have given this conclusion over here because it is about overcoming your fear. Fear in our mind is triggered by perception of danger, real or imagined. So danger could be actual danger or it can just be imagined danger. So we have to first face it head on. So you have to face your fear head on. Second thing what you have to do is respond with determination. With determination, you respond to your fear. And then the third thing is chase it away from your mind. So chase the fear away from your mind. So we do these three things. Chase it away from our mind before it does more harm to us. So we must remember how to face our fears, then to respond to our fears with determination, and after that we must chase it away from our mind before it can harm us. Okay? So that much for the theme of the story, The Elevator. Now we come to the style of writing. The style of writing. 1 minute. Okay, so you can take a picture of this also. This is giving you the style of writing. Okay. So now what is the style of writing? Narrative methodology. The story is told in the third person. I have explained to you what is third person. So the story is told in the third person. The author has used a sarcastic, sardonic tone. What do you mean by sardonic tone? It's a humorous, mocking tone. Like I mentioned to you in one or two places, that as if it's the old lady smiled as if she was mocking, and we find the father also being very sarcastic to him all the time, no? So the tone that when will you be a man, are you still scared of an old lady? So that sarcasm is there in the tone. So the author has used a sarcastic and sardonic tone. That is the tone of the story. The author leads the readers the author leads the readers into the story first by arousing their curiosity. Okay, and then describing the fear of the protagonist, Martin, leading to the creation of an imaginary character in the form of a huge threatening woman, and ending the story with a cliffhanger, leaving it to the readers to conclude the story according to their choice. Okay, then the second style is foreshadowing. What do you mean by foreshadowing? This is a literary device used by authors to give the readers an inkling of something that will happen, to hint at the future plot development. So this is a literary device, like how you have literary devices in poetry also. So even in prose we have literary devices, and foreshadowing is a literary device which we normally use in prose. So it gives you a hint of what will happen in the future, development of the plot. Example, Martin was always uncomfortable in elevators, afraid that they would fall, informing the readers that it seemed crowded even when two people. The author creates an atmosphere of suspense and gives a foreboding of something untoward likely to happen. Okay, I hope you all have understood. Now we come to the main part of the story, which is the plot. What do you mean by the plot? Like I've explained to you plot earlier also. There are 5 things in the plot. In my module, in the earlier module, lecture 1 of the same story also, I have given you a picture of the plot. Now this plot I have written for this particular story, that is the elevator. So please take a picture. I hope the pictures are clear enough for you to see. Or you can copy it down. Okay, so now what is the plot? See, we have the exposition, we have the rising action, and then we have the climax. Here the the author has stopped at the climax. There is no falling action and there is no conclusion, which he has skipped over here. Okay, we have only the exposition, means the introduction of the characters and the setting, and we have the rising action, and we have the climax, and he has left it over there. Okay, he has reached the climax and he has stopped. What is the exposition? Read from down. First one, I have given it to you like that, in the form of a arc, if you will see. Okay, Martin fears being in an elevator as it would fall or he would be trapped in it. The elevator is scary, old, dimly lit, rickety, and dirty. Now, what does it show? Exposition means, I told you, it's an introduction to the characters or the setting and the setting. So here I have given you both. The introduction of the elevator, which is the main place where the setting, and Martin, the main character, the protagonist. So these 2 points we have. Then we have the rising action. What is the rising action? One day, a large lady enters the elevator. Coincidentally, the lady would be with Martin in the elevator whenever he was alone. And once the lady smiles at Martin, he fearfully runs down the stairs, breaking his leg. So that is the rising action. Okay, if you have more place, you can write that on his way back to the hospital, and then he is hospitalized and he comes back with crutches. You can include that. That also is a part of the rising action. If you have place, you can do it. You know, normally when most of the people, they write plots and all, they give it in a square form. So you make small rectangles or small squares or small bubbles, and you write it in that. Okay. Now, if you're very good with your computer work and all that, then you can make bubbles. If you're doing it as an for your internal assessment, if you're given to write a plot of a story or a poem, what you can do is, you can make small bubbles and then put them accordingly to exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and conclusion. So once you can do that, so but do something which is more creative. The more creative you are, the more marks you get. So please be creative when you're doing your literature assessments. And with that, I come to an end of this module. I have discussed most of the things with you, and I have explained to you how to write a plot for any story, and that will help you to write on your own. If you are not able to learn by heart, which we normally discourage when we are appearing for the CISE board, we don't encourage learning by rote. We encourage learning by application. You have to be able to apply the knowledge that you have been able to assimilate when your teachers have been explaining to you, or through the various workbooks and through your various projects. So that assimilation of knowledge is very important, and I hope you all are able to do that in a very good manner. And with this explanation of the elevator, I wish you all a goodbye.